This is Long Way to the Top, and I'm your host, Shane Bryan. Well, there are rock stars, and then there are people who change what a rock star can be. My guest today definitely belongs in the second category. From a Detroit teenager with a bass guitar to a leather-clad rocker and a rock and roll trailblazer, Suzi Quatro kicked open the door that generations of artists have walked through ever since. There was Can the Can, 48 Crash, Devilgate Drive, The Wild One, If You Can't Give Me Love, Stumbling In, and somewhere along the way, a certain leather-clad character named Leather Tuscadero. But the great thing about Suzi Quatro is that this isn't just a nostalgia story. She is still touring, still writing, and still making records. Her latest album, Freedom, finds her stripping back to the rock and roll spirit that started it all, including a fantastic Detroit reunion with Alice Cooper on the MC5 classic Kick Out the Jams. And now she's coming back down under for a huge Australian tour. Suzi Quatro, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. I can't wait to get there.
What is it about Australia that keeps you coming back? I mean, you've had this extraordinary love affair since 1974.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's my 42nd tour, and it's just, I don't know, you're part of my fabric and I'm part of yours. I think I always analyze it. Now I'm 76 now. I think I'm real and you're real.
Yeah.
And this is where I think the connection is.
Yeah.
We're both real. I get you, you get me.
Yeah.
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 Okay.
Yeah. That's it. That is it in a nutshell,
yeah,
isn't it?
I think so.
Is it something different in Australia, though, that to other places in the world? I mean, you know, it's a long flight down under, let's be honest. You know, we have incredible musicians in Australia that have idolized you throughout the years as well, and have probably built their careers off the back of the success that you had in rock and roll.
Well, I didn't, I always have to be honest about this. When my documentary Suzi Q came out in 2019, and it was made by an Australian director, Liam Firminger.
Yep.
And I didn't realize that what I was doing was going to do it. I didn't know I was changing the world. I didn't know it till I watched the premiere of the documentary. I was booked in at the Regent Theater in 2019 to do a Q&A after the showing with the audience of the documentary. So I snuck in, stood on the side. I wanted to see the documentary with the audience.
Yes.
Because you really can judge it, the highs and the lows and the laughs and the tears and blah, blah.
Yeah.
So I'm watching, standing against the wall so nobody could see me, but a few people did. And then all these girls came on, right, all the way through the film. You had Debbie Harry, you had Cherie Curry, you had Chrissy Hynde, you had Joan Jett, you had Tina Weymouth, you had Lita Ford, you had Donita Sparks. I'm sure I'm forgetting somebody,
Wow.
Katie Tunstall. And they all said the same thing. If you boil it all down to one phrase, they all said, I would not have done what I did had Suzi Quatro not done it first.
Yeah.
And the penny, I was 69, the penny dropped. And then I started to cry.
Oh, wow.
I didn't get it. And then I kept going, what? And then at the end I went, I did all that. And then I was humbly accepting it, but it really touched me because
Yeah.
I didn't know. But that's the way to do it, that you don't know you're doing it.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's exactly right. You opened up that door for a lot of other women to say, you know what, I can pick up that guitar or that bass or the drums and do just as good as any bloke.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
like I said, I say it jokingly, I kicked down the door because I didn't see it.
Yeah. Love it. I love it. Now, I want to talk about your new album. It's called Freedom, and you've described it as getting back to who you really are. And by the way, fantastic album.
Thank you.
It takes off the masks. It reaches that point where you've got nothing left to prove. Do you, do you have to live 75 years to, make an album called Freedom, or 79 years?
I think you do have to be of a certain age. I think you do, because you're on the journey your whole life. You're on the journey. But like it says on this, I just don't have anything left to prove. I just finally got there. My
Yeah.
son said, let's go back to basics. I said, yeah. And he gave me this riff, and I was listening, putting the song on. I went, freedom. I went, oh my God, that's the album. So it just came screeching out, and I had the vision of the cover in
Yeah.
my head. I
Yeah.
could see it, with the jumpsuit on, with the bass guitar, on a bike going down the road. And if that isn't freedom, what is?
What is
What is?
exactly?
Yeah.
Exactly. I'm glad you mentioned your son. So Richard Tuckey, now producer, co-writer, and guitarist, fascinates me with the studio dynamic because you're Suzi Quatro, you're also mum. When the
Yeah.
two of you disagree in the studio, who wins?
Well, we've done three. This is our third Susie album together. He's also
Yeah.
produced Face to Face with KT and my Uncovered EP.
Yeah.
If I am digging my heels in on something, there's a good chance I'm right. And same with him. If
Mhm.
he's really digging his heels in on something, then he's usually right.
Yeah.
So we have this respect for each other. Anyway, I always can send him to his room. No, but seriously, seriously, when for example, I always do 2 covers on every album, right the
Yeah.
way from 73 up to present day. And he kept on at me to do Kick Out the Jams, right from No Control in 219, our first album together. And I don't know why I resisted, but I did. I love the song, love the band. It just didn't hit me. And
Yeah.
finally, he came to me on this album and he said, Mom, kick out the jams, call Alice Cooper. And
Yeah.
then I could see it and I could hear it. And I called Alice and he went, yes, let's go to Detroit. So it was like doing it with Alice gave me a reason to do it. 2 Detroit buddies. Go
Yeah,
back
yeah.
to Detroit, stand face to face, and record a tribute to a Detroit band. Then it made sense to me.
Yeah, 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 absolutely. Look, watching you guys in the studio doing that, it was, you couldn't have done a different video, I don't
No.
think. It just made
No.
sense.
It absolutely made sense.
Yeah.
And nobody planned anything. We just did what we did.
Yeah.
There's one point in that video towards the end where we both go, kick out the J, and it's like somebody had choreographed our hands.
Yeah.
They moved exactly the same. I went, that's unusual.
Yeah. I just want to talk about, you and Alice. You both were from Detroit. You both knew each other growing up. When Suzi Quatro and Alice Cooper get together, who's the bad influence on whom?
Alice always calls me the mischievous one.
Right.
Yeah. Now, we've always had a little spark between us. And he's done on interviews, he said, oh, she was always flirting with me. I'm sorry, but he did his own little bit of flirting. He wasn't shy on flirting either. But we wanted it to be a friendship.
Yeah.
I know a different Alice than what's up there. And he knows a different Susie. He's always set up, I feel like his little sister to him.
Yeah. Yeah. But it's a persona, right? You get up on stage.
Yeah.
I mean, he couldn't keep up what he does on stage 24/7.
No, well, I am both people. I mean, I don't put that on. That's my performer side. But I just know a very nice man. I'm very fond of Alice.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Now, Detroit, talking about the song, Detroit gave us, MC5, Alice, Iggy and the Stooges, Bob Seger, Ted Nugent, and yourself, of course. I mean, incredible collision of, soul and garage rock and attitude. How much of Detroit is still in your DNA every time you pick up that bass?
I can't get rid of it.
Yeah.
Everything I do is Detroit.
Yeah.
Everything. We have talked about this, Alice and I. You may leave Detroit, but you can't get rid of it. There's an edge. I certainly have an edge.
Yeah.
There's an energy level in Detroit. I certainly have that. There's a no nonsense. There's a danger in Detroit. I have that. It's in everything I do. Apparently, there's a Detroit hug that I didn't know I did till my kids pointed it out to me. And
a Detroit hug.
Yeah, you come in, but you do that. In fact, if you watch the video, Alice tries to hug me, but I gave him the Detroit hug instead. He wanted to come in for a closer encounter, but it's so in me. I even do it to my kids. It's called the Detroit hug.
Okay.
Okay.
I'll have to keep an eye out for that one.
Yeah.
Now, I want to go back. You're talking about, your son being the producer of the last few albums. Obviously, before all of that, let's go right back to the beginning. You're 14 years old. You're playing bass, in the Pleasure Seekers with your sister.
Yep.
At what point did you actually think, this is what I'm going to do with my life? Or were you just a kid that was just plugging an amp in and, doing it to feel a bit better?
No, in fact, I had a sense of my destiny from very young.
Yeah.
Like I'll do the little points just quickly as it takes too long. 5 and a half, I saw Elvis on TV.
Yeah.
And I watched him and decided in my head, I'm going to do that. It was in there.
Yeah.
Then, of course, you grow up and all that. I played bongos at the age of 7 with my dad. I studied piano. I was in the percussion section at school, first chair. And then 14, we watched the Beatles on TV, and we decided to form an all-girl band. And nobody wanted the bass, so I was given the bass, even though I could read, write, and play percussion and piano.
Yeah.
I was given the bass. I'm self-taught on bass. And when we did our first show, we knew 3 songs. And I remember getting up on stage with my bass plugged in, ready to start. And in my head went the sentence, the words, "I'm home."
Yeah, nice.
And it's never changed.
Yeah.
I'm home. The stage, I'm home. I feel very natural up there.
Can you remember the 3 songs?
Yeah, Latin Upelu, Long Tall Texan, and Twist and Shout.
Yeah, nice. Nice. You mentioned Elvis and you mentioned the Beatles. Who was the biggest influence?
Elvis, for sure. Jameson, the bass player from Motown, he was my hero. And Motown in general, the 60s Motown, very big influence. As I was in the band, then Otis Redding became a big influence, Canned Heat, and Bob Dylan in my lyric writing.
Yeah.
And believe it or not, Billie Holiday.
Yeah, wow. Where did that come from?
I don't know. It was a producer who was going to produce the Pleasure Seekers. He came to see a gig, and he called me to the back of the room in New York City. He was talking to me. He had a drink with me, and he said to me, "You're really good." He said, "One day you're going to have to leave your sisters." He's the first person to tell me that. And then he said, "If you're really serious about this singing, you got to get yourself some Billie Holiday albums." To which I replied, "I have all his stuff."
Yeah. No. Okay. Obviously don't know who Billie Holiday is.
I found out, but when I nearly died. I nearly died because I went home. I said to my dad, "Dad, I got to get some records by this guy, Billie Holiday." He went, "Susie." I said, "What?" "It's a girl." Oh, how embarrassing.
Did you have much influence, from your parents around that time?
My dad was a musician all his life, and he multi-instrumental.
Yeah.
And strange because I went to him. I was 14, and I said, "Dad, Patty and me, one of his 4 daughters, and me, 2 of them, so 2 out of 4. I said, we're going to start an all-girl band," and he went, "Good."
That's it.
And I said, "I'm going to play bass. Have you got one?" He said, "Yeah." So it's no wonder that I didn't realize what I was doing, because I never had any arguments. I never had to argue to try to be in a band. It was just fine.
Yeah. He never said, "Go and get a real job."
No, in fact, he was completely supportive. He helped us buy our first van. He helped us. He signed for our equipment. We paid it off bit by bit. He even left his Cadillac on the driveway. And Michigan gets freezing in the winter. It's like, sometimes you can't get out the door for the snow. Left it outside so we could use the garage to rehearse in.
Oh, that was lovely.
Yeah, it was.
There you go. There you go. Now, you went over to England, met Mickie Most. Did you meet Mickie Most before you went to England?
No, he came to Detroit to record at Motown with Jeff Beck and Kozik Powell. And my brother found out that he was in town and got him in to see the band, which by that time was called Cradle. And I have been the complete front woman in Pleasure Seekers. did 99% of the singing up there up the front. And my little sister came in, and she was going to be the new lead singer. And we changed the format of the band, got heavier, started to write our own songs, and I was kind of at the back.
Yeah.
And I only did 2 songs that night, but Mickie still went, "Come here."
Yeah.
Yeah, he still saw me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that was the start of it. That was the start. I mean, you've spoken a lot about those first couple of years and being lonely and how difficult it was. How close did Suzi ever come to saying, no, that's it, it's not going to happen?
Never.
Never.
Not even in my deepest, darkest, pounding my fists on the ground, crying, lonely, no money, no success, did I even consider giving it up. If you know me at all, I am a determined person. If I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
Done. End of. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Suddenly, Can the Can happens. Number 1 in Britain, number 1 in Australia. Life changed very, very quickly. Can you remember the moment when you realized that I'm not trying to become Suzi Quatro anymore, I am Suzi Quatro?
Yes, I can remember when it dawned on me when we watched the Top of the Pops, where we were number 1 on the little TV set that we had in our little flat. That was me and my ex, Lenny, my guitar player. We're still good friends. And we watched it, we were number 1. So then we went around the corner to the local pub.
Yes.
And as I walked in, I got mobbed. There she is. I went, oh my God. And then you realize your life has changed.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you remember the first time you heard it on radio?
Yes, I was at a swimming place in downtown London. They had a swimming pool on the roof. I can't remember, Tottenham Court Road. Can't remember. Oh, the Oasis it was called. That's right. And you go up in an elevator and you can swim. And my record came out. They said this is a pick of the week, a record of the week. And I didn't even think about it. I went, I'm on the radio. I shouted it out to whoever was near me. I couldn't contain myself.
I love it. I love it. I mean, you followed it up with 48 Crash and Devilgate Drive. Australia went absolutely mad over those songs. When you're in the middle of that sort of success, can you appreciate it, or are you moving so quickly that you don't even really understand what happens until decades later?
Oh no, I appreciate it all the way along because I have been raised in a musical family with.
Yeah.
Okay, I came back at 16 off the road. We had a little break. I've been on the road since I've been 14, so that's 62 years. We came back to the house, and I remember my father going like this to me. Took me in another room. He didn't take the other 2 sisters who were in the band. He took me in the other room. And this is why I didn't have a problem with success. He said to me, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you're going to be doing this for the rest of your life. And I said, I am, Dad. He said, okay, then I'm going to give you 2 bits of advice. I said, okay. He said, first of all, this is your job. This is your profession. So that put that work ethic and that attitude in me right away. Not like, hey, I'm famous.
Yeah.
Put that in me. And then he said, and the second thing I'm going to tell you that is if there's 10 or 10,000 people in the audience, every single person has put their hand in their pocket, taken money out, and paid to see you, and you owe them. If you can't give 150%, don't go on that stage.
Yeah.
Oh, it felt like the Bible of show business to me. And I have stuck to that teaching since day one because it feels right.
Yeah, I love that. I've actually seen firsthand, I won't mention who, but an artist that just went, no, I'm not going up on stage. There's not enough people in the audience.
Oh, you can't do that.
I know.
Oh my God. We had one the other day where something got confused. They didn't promote it quick enough, and it was a last minute job, and it wasn't completely packed. And I tell you what, I gave the performance of a lifetime.
Yeah.
I remembered what my father had told me, and I went, you people have paid to see me, and you're going to see me.
Yeah.
And it turned out to be one of my favorite gigs ever.
I love it.
I really turned it on. Yeah.
When you turn that mic on, you know, you're there for that person sitting in that seat.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I am very much an audience person too.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever seen me live, but
Yes.
I'm an audience person. I read my audience.
Yeah. 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 I love it.
Yeah.
Was that really a 70s sort of thing? You know, you see that, you see a lot of bands now where they just get out there and play and then that's it. It seems to be like, you know, yourself, artists like Leo Sayer, you get out there and you're part of that audience on
I don't
stage.
know. Yeah, I don't know if it's a 70s thing. Maybe it is. Because the artists that started making it in the 70s had been artists in the 60s learning their
Yeah.
craft. And I think it's a dying breed. I think us learning our craft in the 60s, people,
Yeah.
it was then that you had to do the normal thing was 5 sets a night,
Yeah.
45 on, 15 off. And you could play to a empty room with one drunk at the bar, or
Yeah.
you could play to a packed dance floor. And you learned how to cope with every situation.
Yeah.
And you learned how to read an audience. You learned how to bring them to you. Yes, I'm very much that way. I think it's a dying breed, though. I don't think those kind of gigs don't exist anymore.
No, no,
Yeah,
no, no. You see your artists like your Bon Jovis that get out there and they just perform for 2.5 hours straight, you know, and you go, that's true dedication to the art,
absolutely.
right there.
I do my 2 hour show now when I'm doing my solo shows. It's 2 hours with an interval, and I could do it again.
Yeah,
I could go off stage and change into the outfit for number one and do it all again. Yeah, and this is stamina. This is training. And this is loving what you do.
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, that's true. That is true. Now, I want to talk about Leather Tuscadero because I'm a Happy Days fan. You know, I watched it religiously as a kid growing up. You walk into this enormous television phenomenon, right?
Yes.
And then you apparently start receiving just as much fan mail as the Fonz himself, right? Was there ever a moment when you went, hang on a second, I'm a rock star. How did I become a television heartthrob?
Well, it was a choice I took. They called me. I was on tour in Japan, and they said they had this part, but I'd like to come and read for it in Hollywood. And I thought, okay. I didn't really know the show, but my publicity guy said, believe me, you want to come. It hadn't come to England yet. You want to come and audition for this.
Yeah.
So I did. It just was real natural. I always knew I could act. I could have gone into acting instead of music quite easily. And I one time was picking Ron Howard's brain because we email a lot. I'm very good friends with Ron, Henry, Donnie, and Anson. We remained close.
Yeah.
And I was picking Ron's brain and I said, okay, did I feel like that was my first acting job? Did I feel like a new actress? And he said, no. And I said, did it feel like I was new to the show? And he said, that's the strangest thing. It felt like you had always been there.
Yeah.
So I felt that too.
Yeah.
I didn't feel new when I went on there. It's like I knew everybody and I'd never watched the show.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
You did have that. It was like you were meant to be there.
Yes. And I think that's why it fit in seamlessly. And Henry, I still have to pay him back for this. I was standing ready to go out for my first entrance. Audience, jam-packed. A lot of people I knew were out there, you know. So naturally, you're going to be a little bit nervous. It's your first ever acting role. So I'm a little bit, you know, and I'm ready
live.
to go.
It's filmed in front of a live studio. Yeah.
Yes. So, you know, it's a jump in. So I'm standing there waiting for my entrance. And Henry comes up backstage. I don't know, it's backstage where the door is, talking to me. Yeah. And he says, you ready? You ready? I said, I said, Henry, I'm just a little bit. He said, I've been watching your rehearsals. You're going to smash it. He said, you're on. So I opened the door. So I went through Arnold's store and I sauntered up as the Tuscadero, you know, doing it really good, really. Yeah. Stopped on my mark. And the director said, excuse me, Miss Quatro. I went, what? What are you doing out here? I said, that's my cue. He said, no, you have another page. I went, okay. I went back. And I went back and Henry was on the floor laughing. And he said to me, he did it on purpose. He said, now, what else can go wrong? enjoy yourself.
I love it. I love it.
I always tell them, I owe you one.
Now, how much of Suzi Quatro was in Leather Tuscadero? Because I kind of felt it was an extension of your stage persona.
Well, it was a role I was playing, and I've played many other things as well. You do have to find a bit of yourself to put in there to make it real. But I'll tell you a funny story. This is funny. On the episode, Miriam plays fairy godmother, where I didn't do any singing, and I had to dress up in a dress and go out on a date with Ralph Malph, right?
Yeah.
And there was a scene where I had to knock on the Cunningham door, and I did dialogue, and then I go to Mary in front, and I go, I need to become a lady, right?
Yeah.
And we were too long on the scene. So they took out my dialogue, and they said, just cross to that spot and say your line. And I went, but you've taken my motivation away. So we kept doing it, wasn't working, because I had dialogue crossing. So finally, I said to the director, okay, I think I've got this. Give me one more shot. So knocked on the door opens, and I did this saunter up to her, and I went, I need to become a woman. And the director said, cut, perfect. What did you do? And I said, I imitated Joan Jett imitating me. And I've told Joan that. It's so funny because when she first started off, she was me. She was me. Not now. She's morphed into her own thing. Yeah. But when she started, so I remembered watching her going, oh my God, that's me. And I imitated her, what she thinks I look like. Yeah. And perfect. Yeah.
I love it. Now, I want to switch gears. We haven't got too much longer left. Very interesting, you Stumbling In, very different song, suddenly became a hit again, and for another generation. It's like watching young people discover, a song that you recorded before, many of their parents were born. Did you ever want to go, okay, that's great. Now you've heard that. Now go and listen to the Wild One.
I think they do anyway. Do you know what? I'm getting now since 2015, and I think it's down to do with the internet, and I'm still releasing stuff like you say. I'm getting rows of youngsters in the front, screaming girls.
Yeah.
And screaming guys.
Love it.
So they are discovering me again.
Oh, yeah.
They are. But cool. I do play a little bit of Cyril's on my show just to introduce my own 10 seconds. And then I say, okay, here's the original.
Yeah, I love it. That is great. Now, I'm going to finish up with a fast five. So don't think too hard. First answer that comes into your head. Okay. I'm from Tasmania. If the Tassie Devils came to you and said, we want Devilgate Drive to be our theme song, would you say yes or no?
Absolutely, yes.
There you go. That's one for the Tassie guys. Now, one bass player, living or gone, that you would love to have stood beside you for one song.
Jameson, but he's with me all the time anyway. Yeah. James Jameson from Motown in the 60s, the best. Yeah. Also the bass player from Canned Heat. That was my first bass solo I saw on stage when I was 17.
Yeah, fantastic. Now, you're on a Detroit road trip. Who would you choose? I think I know the answer to this one. Alice Cooper, Iggy Pop, or Bob Seger? No question.
Alice.
Of course you would.
My buddy.
What's more dangerous in the wrong hands? A bass guitar, a leather jumpsuit, or Suzi Quatro?
Suzi Quatro.
And finally, finish this sentence. Rock and roll has given me
the best years of my life.
There really is no other answer, is there?
There is no other answer.
Absolutely. Well, look, thank you so much for being with me on the show. We'll have all of the dates listed down. You're heading to Australia mid-November. I hope you have a fantastic tour, and you're also doing Red Hot Summer, so all the dates will be in the description. Suzi Quatro, it has been an absolute honor and a pleasure.
Thank you very much. Thoroughly enjoyed it.
Thanks,
bye-bye.
Suzi.
Make sure you get your ass to a gig. See ya.
See ya. All right. Thanks for listening. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of Long Way to the Top. Hit plus or follow to subscribe to the podcast and head over to Facebook at The Long Way to the Top Podcast and give us a like. Keep on rocking and I'll catch you on the next episode of Long Way to the Top.